it's over. Now, what do I mean by it's over? Well, it's over for all the competitors of the new OnePlus Open 2 that will be coming out here in just a few weeks. We got a few more confirmations on the specs, so we are going to cover that, and we're going to talk about how it will compare to the Z Fold 7. By the end of this video, you know exactly what I mean and why I think it's over for the Samsung Z Fold if they don't make some obviously needed changes. Now, the OnePlus Open skipped a year. They didn't come out with one last year, so they were holding off until they can get the better chip, and I believe until their AI is fully baked. They don't want to make that mistake that Apple's been making for the last several months still. I'm Mark, and you're watching GOT. If you like what you see in this video, make sure to smash that like button down below, and of course, subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on the news, tips, and tricks in the upcoming year, 2025. Now that's out of the way. Let's get back to it. The OnePlus Open has a 7.8-inch internal screen, which is a great size screen for using as a tablet, and of course is bigger than the 7.6-inch on the current Z Fold 6. Now the OnePlus Open 2 is going to go to an 8-inch screen, which is very similar to that of the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which I have here. The Pixel 9 Pro Fold having a nice size internal screen is one of the great things about it, and you can see it's a little bit larger than the OnePlus Open. Now, the difference between the two is the OnePlus Open screen has nearly no visibility of this crease. So if you hold these two phones at the same angle, you can see the crease there is already started to appear on the OnePlus Open. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not, but same with these side angles. Let's see if I can hold them both without dropping them. It's kind of hard here. My hands aren't quite that wide, but here we go. We've got both of them open, and I'll just turn the angles a little bit. You can start to see them on the Pixel Fold, but not on the OnePlus Open. You have to be at the right angle to really catch it on the OnePlus Open. So the OnePlus Open 2 is going to have an 8-inch screen, but it's going to be much better on the crease than you got on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Now let's not leave the Z Fold 7 or the Z Fold SE out of this discussion, because the Z Fold SE is an 8-inch screen, but its screen is similar to that more of the Pixel 9 Pro, where the crease is a little more visible than the OnePlus Open. Now, since I have the Pixel 9 Pro Fold in my hand, when you fold it up, it's got the external screen, which is actually a 6.3-inch screen, which you would think, since it's an 8-inch screen on the interior, it should be a larger screen than that of the OnePlus Open, but it's not. They are actually the same size. This one on the OnePlus Open is also a 6.3-inch. On the OnePlus Open 2, it's going to go to a 6.4-inch screen. So the external screen on the OnePlus Open is going to be larger than the one on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Well, how is that so? Because it's going to actually still be a smaller dimension phone than the OnePlus. Well, you can see right now from this visual here, I'll give you an image look to see better, but looking at these phones, you can see that the OnePlus Open has smaller bezels than the Pixel 9 Pro Fold does. So as they increase the size of the phone overall, they'll be able to increase the exterior screen to 6.4, where the Pixel 9 Pro didn't. Now, this is a couple things and why I think it's over for Samsung if they don't make some changes. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Now we'll talk about the chip on the OnePlus Open 2. It's going to be a Snapdragon 8 Gen Elite, or an 8 Elite chip, which is the fastest chip Snapdragon has ever made. And it's going to come out, and it's going to be in the OnePlus Open 2, and it'll also be in the newer Samsung Z Fold 7. The difference is this one's going to come out nearly 5 to 6 months earlier. Now, I could tell you from personal experience, if it's anything like the OnePlus Open 2 will actually perform a whole lot better with that chip than the Z Fold. And the reason why I'm saying that is this thing with the Snapdragon Gen 2 performs a whole lot smoother and faster than my Z Fold 6 with the Snapdragon 3. So it's got a newer chip, but this thing performs a lot faster and a lot smoother. And I don't know if it's just the bloatware thing, or if it's just because OnePlus Open has figured out a way to give this phone a really smooth user interface. Now, I know a lot of you out there just caught that. He said user interface. And Samsung has the best UI of any smartphone out there. I would tend to agree with it for the most part, but there is also, that comes with that, a lot of bloatware and features that most people don't use. such as DeX. People really talk a lot about DeX. I've never really used it for productivity. I've used it just to give examples and to show off with, I guess. But I've never used it as a computer because I've always had computers. I've always had tablets. So for me, it's never really been that big of a deal. But for some people, it is. So if DeX is a feature that really makes that stand out for you, good on you. But from my view, and I'm not allowed to have my own view, I don't think it's a big deal. The multitasking on the Oxygen OS, I think, is far superior to that of the Samsung. Now, if you want to get more detail on that, check out this video where I go into more detail on the multitasking on the different foldable phones. Now, we expect, as in last year, the RAM on the OnePlus Open 2 is going to be 16 gigabytes of RAM versus the Samsung Z Fold 7. It's rumored to come out with possibly 12 gigabytes of RAM. And if you want, you can upgrade to 16 gigs. So they'll have a different variation. But I think they're going to go cheap on us. In the SE, they put 16 gigabytes of RAM. They put the larger camera. We'll cover that here in just a moment. It looks like the Z Fold 7 may not get. Now, here's a good question to ponder. Samsung makes this really narrow screen versus the wider screen of the other foldables. As you can see here, it's real simple. We've showed this many, many times. So the funny thing about that is this is considered a 6.3 inch, same as this one, but that's because it's a bit taller of a phone, as you can see here. Well, it's going to be same as true with the Z Fold 7. The Z Fold 7 is going to have that 6.5 inch versus the 6.4 inch simply because it's taller. Now, here's where the question comes in. Why is Samsung going wider? So for those out there that think that Samsung's not struggling or Samsung's not worried, well, they're going wider, which is what everybody seems to want, and which is why the OnePlus Open is selling more, the Pixel 9 Pro is selling more than they expected, and this one is selling less. And when they came out with the SE, everybody flocked to it, and it sold out real quickly, and people in the US are trying to get it. It's not available right now, and that's why I believe it's going to come out in the Z Fold 7. So I believe that Samsung is really trying to answer that call of folks wanting the wider front screen. And of course, with that becomes the larger internal screen. So I think that we're going to find people are going to flock more towards these other dimensions, especially since Samsung is not making any stride to improve the next category, which is battery. You would think because of this thing being so much thinner. So what do I mean by thinner? Well, this right now is a 4.7 inch in thickness. The newer one, the version 2, is going to be less than 10 millimeters thick. They're saying somewhere around 9.3 millimeters thick closed. That's a huge jump, especially when now the Z Fold SE is at 10.6 inches closed. The OnePlus Open 2 is going to actually even beat that. And then, of course, Open, this one's going to be around 4.8 inches versus 4.9 on the Z Fold 7. So how in the world are they going to improve on the battery? Well, they come out with some new battery technology, and I don't know how they're doing it, but they are going to come out with a 5,900 milliamp hour battery. And now that we're talking power and battery, let's look at charging. Charging on the new OnePlus Open 2 is going to move from 65 watts, or 67, which is what this one is rated at, to 80 watts wireless charging. So, folks, 80 watts is fast. And what's really crazy is they're actually going to add wireless charging to the Open 2, and it's going to have 50 watts wireless. 50 watts wireless charging. Yeah, you heard me right. That is crazy. It's 15 in the Z Fold. Now, where we're going to get these special wireless chargers to do that, I don't know, but that's crazy. I'm going to have to get one somewhere. So I'm really excited about the larger battery because that's going to make the camera last a lot longer, because you know what drains the phones faster than anything else is using the cameras. We'll talk about those in a moment. The storage on this thing is going to be 512 right out of the box. Now, the Z Fold SE was 512 right out of the box, so that was good. And this thing's going to have available purchase up to a terabyte. So that's really nice for those that really think they have to have that much extra storage. So real quickly, let's talk about the cameras. We could talk all day about the cameras, or I could talk all day about the cameras, but you don't want to listen to it all day. But on these foldables, myself and many other reviewers have always complained that they didn't put flagship cameras in the foldables. You know, Pixel didn't do it, Samsung didn't do it, but OnePlus did. The only difference is OnePlus didn't have the processing to go with it. Now, the next phone, this one's got a 64 megapixel 3 times zoom. And on version 2, it's going to actually drop to a 50 megapixel across the board on all their lenses. The others are 48 megapixel on this phone. But on the OnePlus Open 2, it's going to have 50 all the way across the board, which is great because that's still higher-end cameras than all these other phones, such as the Z Fold. They may put a 200 megapixel main shooter on the Z Fold 7 like the SE, but I'm now seeing rumors that it's going to stay at a 50 megapixel, which would be a big mistake. And then the 7 megapixel ultra wide and 10 megapixel 3 times zoom, where on this one it's going to be 50 megapixel all the way across the board. And with Oxygen 15, they are slowly trickling out better features and better processing for the OnePlus Open, and of course with AI. So I'm expecting with the new OnePlus Open 2, AI is going to be pretty much fully matured, and I'm hoping that their processing will be that much more fine-tuned as well. So I don't see the cameras as a downgrade at all, especially when they're upgrading 2 of them, and then the one being the 3 times zoom, they're bringing it down to 50 megapixel, but still that outperforms all the others. Combined with their new AI processing, it should be killer cameras. And I know some of you are going to say, well, but what about the S Pen? The S Pen, well, S Pen on the Z Fold 7 still has not been confirmed. We know the SE does not have an S Pen, doesn't have a capability to use an S Pen. Well, on the OnePlus Open 2, it has a capability both inside and outside to use their pen. Come from Oppo, which I still have not gotten one, because apparently you can do that on this phone too, but it'll work on the inside and the outside screen. So if you must have your stylus pen, well, it's already confirmed on the OnePlus Open that it will work on both. The Z Fold, still not there yet. They're probably going to make it so it'll be inside, but most are saying that they will not have one that'll work both on the inside and outside screen, which is really a shame and something we've all been asking for forever. Now, I do have a video out comparing all 3 of these phones from specs to features if you want to check out those here. Until next time, Happy New Year and God bless.